Welcome, and thank you for tuning in to The City Imagines, hosted by The Word on the Street. I'm Rebecca DM, your host, and this is episode 1, season 3 of The City Imagines, and our very first event of the WOTS 2022 season. Tonight, we are very excited to kick off another year of our City Imagines programming with a feature that is incredibly timely and wasn't necessarily when we first started dreaming it up, but is now incredibly timely on the future of restaurants with food writer Corey Mintz, who will be joined by Toronto chefs and restaurateurs Hemant Bhagwani, Kate Chomyshyn, and in conversation on Corey's new book, The Next Supper, The End of Restaurants as We Knew Them and What Comes After. Alongside our moderator this evening, Toronto Star food columnist and yes, local legend, Karon Liu. Before we can get into what the city imagines, we first need to recognize what it already is. The Toronto of today exists because of the Toronto Purchase, also known as Treaty 13, signed with the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation in 1805, with a final claim settlement in 2010. WOTS Toronto also recognizes the history of the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, the Huron-Wendat, and the Seneca nations in this territory. The place in which WOTS operates is the subject of the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, an agreement to care for and share the resources around the Great Lakes in peace. Toronto, or Toronto, is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people with long histories on this land, and acknowledging this is only the first step in building a practice of land stewardship and Indigenous solidarity that honors these peoples. We encourage you to educate yourself about the land you occupy, wherever you're tuning in from. Now, if you'd like to be the first to know about new videos and events from The Word on the Street in 2022, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you enjoy the Tonight's talk, please give this video a like and share it around to help others find it as well. For more information on what we do or to sign up for our newsletters, you can visit the website toronto.thewordonthestreet.ca. Now, I'm very pleased to welcome our moderator for this evening, Toronto Star food columnist and longtime WOTS food event host, Karon Liu. Karon is a staff food reporter for the Toronto Star. He recently helped launch a new food section focusing on the hidden gems and culinary vastness of the Greater Toronto Area. His writing can be found every Thursday in the paper. Welcome, Karon.
Hi, and it's Thursday too, so
you can see my
byline in the paper. Yeah, thanks you for welcoming me and my comically large mug of tea.
That's completely appropriate for this month. We all need a comically large mug of tea.
All right, so I'm going to blow through the introductions and introduce our panelists because I think people are not tuning in to hear my cartoon voice. So let's just get started. So of course, we have our author here. Corey Mintz is a freelance food reporter focusing on the intersection between food and labor, politics, farming, ethics, and culture. There he is. He's been a cook, a restaurant critic, and is the author of the book that we'll be discussing today, The Next Supper. Out this year, well, it's already out, and he previously wrote How to Host a Dinner Party, which chronicled 192 dinner parties he hosted with fascinating people from all walks of life, including me. And then joining us are two restaurant veterans. The first is Hemant Bhagwani. He helms the Amaya group of restaurants, where his focus now lies with mentoring chefs, cooks, and service staff alike. He has a true passion for food and is incredibly innovative in bringing that passion to life for his customers, employees, and business partners. His leadership style was born out of his passion and vision to make a difference, as well as his life experiences. And then rounding out our panel for the night is Kate Chomyshyn. She is a professional chef with 18 years of experience working in Canada's best restaurants. After meeting her husband, Julio Guajardo, they worked together at many of the country's best restaurants. Over the next decade, duo would research and travel through Mexico in hopes of bringing true Mexican cuisine to Canada. And I think they've had a very good track record so far in their career. Both of them, they owned La Katrina Paletas in Montreal and opened as executive chefs and consultants at El Rey Mezcal Bar in Kensington Market, Rosalinda, Quetzal, and their newest venture, Fanabalam, which I think it's a pandemic success story, right? It started off as a pop-up.
Yeah, it started as a pop-up on Spadina. We were just doing the birria, and now we've moved into our full space.
Yeah. You got a brick and mortar. You got a brick and mortar on Dundas.
We do, yeah.
So congratulations.
Thank you.
All right.
Crazy month for restaurants, but yeah. Or 2 years, I guess.
Yeah. So for those tuning in, for those of you tuning in, some of you might not have read Corey's book yet. Some of you may have, but for those who don't, stay here. Before heading out to your independent bookstore and ordering a copy, Corey, could you kind of give us a nutshell of what your book is about?
Sure. I can't imagine that anyone hasn't read it, although if you're still busy reading all of Steve Ditko's original Spider-Mans, that's the only excuse I can think of. But I want to leave lots of time for Kate and Hemant, so let me try to be brief, Polonia style. The book is sort of taking the trajectory that I was on as a food writer, which was focusing more and more on the problems within the food industry, and primarily labor within hospitality, and really trying to expand that into different types of restaurants: the chef-driven restaurant, the family-run restaurant, the immigrant restaurant, the full-service chain restaurant, the fast food QSR restaurant, and sort of parcel out a lot of those problems while also looking for what are some of the solutions, what are sort of bold innovators doing, and what can we as diners do to make better, more ethical dining choices to support the kind of dining industry that I think we would all like to see, one that's more equitable for everyone. How is that for getting from sort of like the lobby to the third or fourth floor in an elevator?
Well done, well done. And I know that the book that you ended up writing wasn't the book that you planned on writing. You initially set out, the pandemic hit just as you were starting to do interviews. But I think it oddly turned out for the better, because I think in the past 2 years, the pandemic really shone a spotlight on what it's like to work in a restaurant and the existing problems that have really been in the restaurant industry from the get-go. So, what has the response been like to your book so far?
I was about, I'd say, 4 or 5 months into interviewing people and doing research for the book when the pandemic began. And while the book, yes, probably looks very different from the book that I had set out to write, it feels exactly like the book that I intended to write. And the reaction has been very positive. Certainly got a nice reaction in Canada and the United States, and I'm starting to get attention in Italy and France and the UK. But overwhelmingly, the biggest, I guess, unexpected factor has been the variety of stuff that I wanted to talk about in the hopes of getting people to, A, pay attention to, B, believe, because a lot of these things, the exploitative nature of the third-party delivery companies, or the often abusive kitchen situations and the economic imbalances. When I was writing about that, I'd say pre-pandemic, I would previously be met with people saying, "Are you sure that's true? Have you checked the math on that? You're probably wrong. You're a conspiracy theorist." And by the time the book was published, a lot of those things, because of the pressure that this disruption put on everyone, because of the inescapability of these subjects in the media, the fact that the inequities of the restaurant industry weren't something just being paid attention to by a small niche audience, but they became something that if you just looked at, whether it was like the Toronto Star, the New York Times, or USA Today, these stories were everywhere. So the general public, I found, is much more aware a lot of those issues, and speaking with restaurateurs about what they feel the public is aware of. I feel like I'm hearing a big shift from nobody understands me to some of my customers understand me, or they ask me about these things, right, which is the uplifting thing.
Yeah, not for our two restaurateurs on the panel, Kate and Hemant, do you think that throughout the pandemic, there's been a better understanding from the general public of what your industry is going throughout these last 2 years and existing problems?
Well, first of all, congratulations, Corey, for an amazing book. I have a question for you before we both jump into it. Are you finding, from the book, people who've bought, Is there more empathy, or do you think people understand where the restaurant business, general public I'm talking about, the people who picked up the book?
I mean, I get a mix of reactions, and I mean that's my question for you and Kate, because I get I do radio interviews, I do podcasts, and in general I hear from readers, and from restaurant people I get a lot of, hey, thanks for talking about the stuff that's always been like we've been wondering when someone would care about this stuff. I do still get a lot of sort of general reader type of, oh, I had no idea. Even to some of those, like, for example, I had someone who actually bothered to sit down to write a 1,000-word review, which was very nice and glowing. But someone who said, they were someone who was like, as of the moment where they read the book, still ordering from Uber like up till 3 times a day, never mind a week, and seemingly unaware of the variety of problems behind that. So there's still, let's not sort of say that just because something's become mainstream, a talking point, that everyone understands and gets this. There's a difference to sort of like more awareness and more understanding. I'd say a better example is like, I do that sort of recurring feature. I do it for Eater now, where I break down the cost of everything in a restaurant dish. And I used to get a lot of reactions that were sort of like, bro, your math is wrong. Right. A lot of like, this can't be. No restaurant would operate on a 3% profit margin. They'd all go out of business. I don't get many of those comments anymore. We just had another one today, and I'm sure they're going to pop up, but I'm not seeing any of those comments. But I mean, right. You two are actually operating restaurants. What do you hear from diners?
Well, I think people are a lot more. They're giving more. They're standing up with the restaurants now. Wasn't the case pre-COVID, but there is empathy towards the restaurant guys. I get calls where people say, "Oh, we are so sorry that you've been shut down. Is COVID only because it's in the restaurants only or the bars? So we feel bad for you, but we don't know." I mean, some of them are supporting by doing some smaller, whatever gatherings they can do. But but there's been a lot of support, I would say.
Kate?
I would agree with Hemant that, like, I guess we also move in like a kind of our circle of, restaurant people. So there's obviously more awareness in that. As far as the general public goes, I do think there is more, at least like empathy towards the situation, whether they understand like the deeper way that things work. Still it's very niche. Like, I don't, if I were to dive into another industry, I wouldn't have any idea of, how things operate on their side either. So, but I do think like Corey's book, for example, it's very refreshing to read such an honest, depiction. We see enough like tweezers and Vivaldi. I think we can, read about the reality of what makes those moments.
Yeah.
Well, after a long time, we've got a book which is actually about restaurants, right? Exactly. It's totally about the restaurant. So that's what it is, which is great.
Yeah. Well, I think part of the whole dining experience to make it seem like it's all effortless to the diner, that the food just magically comes out. It's perfectly portioned and looks beautiful. But I'm sure in the last 2 years and counting, behind the scenes has just been a whole whirlwind. So could either of you, Kate or Hemant, just kind of describe what was happening behind the scenes, when the pandemic was announced and you were seeing restaurants in other countries starting to shut down? What was going through either of your minds?
I remember I got a call from one of the leasing directors of a major real estate company where we have 6 stores with them. And the first thing he said to me, just make sure you try to survive. It's going to be here for some time. I didn't realize it's going to be 2 years. He actually said 2 years. And I said, oh, this man is crazy. I don't think so. I think this will finish in 3 months, 4 months. He said, people who are strong financially or are just strong will come out of this. You will see a lot of people going down. And we had no idea how much support we will be getting from the government. I do think we as restaurateurs have received a lot of help. But on the other hand, when it started, we were in shock. I remember laying off everyone because I was so scared. And then we started getting every back in and thought, okay, let's come up with the ideas and let's do something new. I was really motivated, writing emails. Now I have about 37 restaurants, franchisees, and corporate, right? I was in touch with them every day, an email to them, trying to motivate them, trying to get it going. But after a while, I also got tired. I had no idea how much I could keep going and trying to support them. They might start, at some point, they started thinking, maybe I'm bullshitting, right? This won't end. This is going on, and then you open up, then you shut down. So a lot of things were happening, which was crazy. But initial reaction was, I think we're done. We won't make it for us.
Yeah. And what was the experience like for you, Kate, with every, lockdown and then ease of restriction, tightening, loosening?
Originally, I was working for Gen Ag at the Swan, and after a few months, I started helping my current business partner open his barbecue in Fort Erie, and he was like, come move out here, work out here, and I was like, I'm gonna go back and work for Jen until we open our planned thing and whatever. It's gonna be a couple months, like we'll be back by the end of the summer, and it certainly has been significantly longer than that. I think, I work in my restaurants side by side with my cooks. It certainly has been a discouraging situation. No one is happy stuffing food into takeout boxes. We had a little glimmer of things back to normal this summer, and this past lockdown was really rough for me and my team. And it's been pretty sad to see, my best cooks walk in and be like, I'm looking at being a TTC driver, or I'm looking at, whatever, something more stable, because it's just, I think until last month, I would have had a very different opinion about this. But this last one really hit us hard. And it was, I think, I do have hope that we're going to get through it, and that I don't know if things will go back to normal, but that things will, certainly we'll get used to the situation. We'll be able to survive through this. But it hasn't been easy for sure.
May I ask a follow-up question and I promise I'm not doing that thing where people start taking over. But can I ask a follow-up question, Kate? Because I had this conversation with a bunch of people in London today. I did a podcast with based out of England. And of course, things are very different there, right? Everybody's going out to restaurants and pubs are packed. And so there was a strange disconnect because, you're in Toronto, I'm in Winnipeg, where everything's closed, right? And that decision was made just before Christmas, and a variety of different stagings, and nobody really happy with how it rolled out. But ultimately, it pushed many people like yourself into the position of, all right, let's either lay off my staff, go back, get the takeout boxes open again, get the apps open again, change what our business is again, apply for new supports, or complain that the supports aren't there from the government. But effectively, I talked to a lot of restaurateurs over the summer who sort of, some of whom who couldn't wait to get rid of the food kits and the delivery and everything and just go back to their core competency, what they started in the business in the first place, serving diners in their restaurant. And to a certain degree, we're being told you can't depend on that. It seems like everybody got caught with their pants down, but as you say, many of your employees are again going, maybe this is the last straw for me. I'm out of this industry. To what degree are you thinking of the business in terms of I always have to have plan B and C ready for the next waves of this or the next pandemic?
So we opened in August. So we opened and they announced full capacity, which was amazing. In September, we were fine, and for a while, and we kind of rolled with that. We always plan to do takeout as part of our offering, just based on the situation. So I don't know if we were caught with our pants down, but we certainly, we had to close down because half of our staff got sick before they actually shut down restaurants. And the day we were meant to reopen, we were ready to do back 50% dining. We were going to add takeout. We had a whole plan. And then a day before, they announced that they were shutting indoor dining on that day. So it was just another round of laying people off. So I don't know that I think that we're all used to planning for it now, but I think that certainly the, one day notice of these things makes it difficult to actually plan or to like have these backup plans.
Yeah. So I mean, what's on the horizon? I don't know if Corey knows, but Ontario, we're going back to 50% dining at the end of the month. For Kate and Hemant, like, what are your plans? Are you going to reopen the dining room at half capacity, or are you going to stick to takeout?
We will open it, but we're also getting tired. We we didn't think this closure was going to come. We train staff because we can't find the old staff, so we train new staff. Then the closure happens. Then we bring new people in, we train them. So it's a non-stop action for us. We will open because the livelihood is dependent on that, and I think landlords are still very crazy. I think they live in some kind of la la land. They think they still will get 100% rent, and it's a problem. But we will open because I think a lot of people want to come out. To Corey's point, where in London things are normal. I mean, in Dubai or in Miami, I've traveled. It's all party. I mean, there are no closures. In Toronto, it's the only one where our whole business is. It's very tough out there. So yeah, that's what it is right now.
I mean, we are also planning on reopening again, mostly like you said, for our staff. Like my service staff gets no support from the government. Even if they claim their tips, it doesn't count into their EI. So, we're definitely planning on reopening 50% and also doing takeout.
Yeah. Well,
hopefully eliminating the delivery apps at that point, but it depends on finances more than anything. So.
Yeah. Well, but how are the both of you, Hemant and Kate, kind of walking that line between, being able to continue to pay the bills, but also taking care of the staff and their well-being? Because, like everyone here is a frontline worker, more or less.
Well, I think the staff are tired. We are tired. The team is tired. I did something different when COVID had started and we started getting wage subsidies. I moved all my service staff onto the subsidies so that they could have a better pay rate. So they didn't have to depend on tips or anything. But it's not. It's very difficult. We're going to open now. We need to start looking for people again, and then train them for another week, 2 weeks to get it going. I don't know. My biggest problem is going to be my franchisees, who have started to walk away because they can't handle it anymore. They're ready to leave their investments of $500,000 out there. To be honest, it is unreal. When you go open stores in these big food courts where we are in, most of our stores are in the food courts, right? In the shopping malls. Even if we open, they don't allow people to come and sit down in the food courts, or they just have to grab and go from there. So it's a very big problem. We have rent, like in Eden Center. I'll just share. We have rents of $42,000 a month. There is no way we can make that kind of money.
Cadillac Fairview
It's
giving you a break.
We're still fighting, so we'll keep doing it. At some point, I think they're coming. They've been now they're being gracious, but it was tough. I received default letters from all the landlords, and sometimes I get scared that if I will survive or not. I calculated we pay $700,000 rent a month. 25% in last year and a half is about 2.8 million. That's the debt I have right now on my company.
You're also the one restaurateur I know who, last we checked, has been suing their insurer because many restaurateurs, not all, pay for disruption insurance, which for the most part, the insurance companies have not honored or have not seen the pandemic as falling under the umbrella of disruption, even though the English language would say that it does. Sometime in the spring of 2020, you started the process of a lawsuit against your insurer. Is there any update on that?
I have. I mean, after your article, you wrote that article, I think they ended up picking up the best lawyer to fight me. So there is a lawyer. I think I heard this through through someone that the insurance companies have put $80 million to fight the restaurateurs for, so that they don't get anything out of from the insurance. They should just give us the $80 million, all of us, so we can at least be better off. But they want to fight. I will fight. For me, that is very important because I'm not just fighting for my own franchisees, but also just to set up something where we can, we don't have to just walk away from it. We pay such a big premium to them, so it's important that we keep fighting, and I will keep doing it. But as to back to Karon's question, it's become very tough. Mentally, I'm also getting very tired with this. At some point, there was a time before that I wanted to run away. Now I feel I also want to run away. But then, because of the passion and all those things inside, you come back and say, let's fight this out. And there are so many people dependent on what we do. So let's keep going and see how far we can go with it.
Right. And Kate, how do you feel as someone who is in a leadership position at your restaurant, kind of walking that line between, keeping your employees safe and well, but also, being able to pay those bills that just keep coming?
Yeah, I mean, it was up until we had to close because everyone got sick. It was like that. The whole week leading up to that was like I'm balancing the financial safety of my employees versus their physical and health safety, and that's such a bad position to be in. And for everyone leading up to Christmas, obviously the financial security was important, but we ended up closing anyway, and we all got sick, and now we're all okay and everyone was fine, and we're feeling safe to reopen, but it's certainly not the position you want to be in. For me, always having been a cook for 20 years, my team is my, it's why I run businesses is for them. I want to make a nice work environment. I want to have a nice, stable place for them, and not having the control over that is really hard for me. I want to support them as much as I can, but coming into, this new year, we had to lay everyone off, and this was our only option, because if I can't keep my business going, I have no work for them anyway. So, it's it's been hard. Certainly the last thing you want to do during the holiday season is lay everyone off. So.
Yeah. Now, it seems like the overall theme of Corey's books is looking at the restaurant industry and its model, and seeing this as an opportunity to make things more sustainable and inclusive for everyone involved. For this one, open up to the three of you. Are there for the restaurant tours? Have you kind of are you both rethinking how you run your business to make it more sustainable in the future, or more profitable, or if there's?
I would argue that this whole scenario has kind of pushed our, visions and goals of sustainability aside and replaced it with, mountains of takeout garbage and, rising costs on everything, which, makes us have to maybe not choose the product that you want, but the one that works for the business. And I think while it has brought a lot of awareness to these issues, I think at the same time, it has priced out a lot of these solutions for a lot of restaurateurs. Everything is insanely expensive. A box of gloves, rubber gloves to work, is $35. So a pair of gloves is 72 cents, of of disposable gloves. So,
well, that's the biggest challenge we're facing are the supplies. It's I think somehow we need to figure out in Canada how we're gonna self-sustain ourselves. The imports are becoming so expensive for us that there is no way we can actually. Our costs are out of the roof right now. We're just working to survive, and we need to move as restaurateurs. We need to actually move very quickly with the times, with whatever is happening. Next 2 years, I do feel the supply chain will be affected big time. I mean, it's just a start right now. I think it's going to be messy unless we start using everything local, and that's where we need to go.
Yeah.
I think that's what's going to be very important.
Now, Corey, in all your years of research and really paying attention to how restaurants throughout North America, not just here in Canada, are doing, has there been a restaurant that was able to kind of crack the code and be able to have a profit, be able to stick to their principles during the pandemic?
Sure, there's tons of them. I mean, I found a bunch of restaurants for the book to highlight who were operating under a different model. I mean, ultimately, there's kind of three streams of progress. One is the outliers, right? The people who are operating under, for example, open book management, profit sharing, employee ownership, elimination of tipping, things that go really hard against the current and the orthodox, and often challenge diners. When I speak to those people over the last 6 months, and I've gotten in touch with just about everyone that I interviewed for the book to say, how are you doing? How are you doing with the quote unquote labor shortage that is widely reported or misreported in the hospitality industry? And they've all said, I have no problems with that. The whole reason that I pushed those initiatives was to create the kind of jobs that people wanted to stay in. We have the same issues about safety and health, protecting our workers, but people actually want to be here. These are, we pay good wages and we foster growth, and people want to grow within our company, but that's a very small minority. The other two big factors are, look, doesn't matter how ethically you run your restaurant, the cost of your beef is going up. Like everyone's costs are going up, whether it's labor, beef, the oil for the deep fat fryer, everything's going through the roof. Imports, whether it's from Italy or Thailand, everyone has to pay more. Therefore, the diner has to pay more. Menu prices have gone up this year. I think maybe somewhere between 4% and 6% in Canada. It's still not enough to go up for the stagnation over the last 10 years in menu prices, which just haven't gone up with the cost of inflation. But the third area that I see the room for the most movement is some of the stuff that Kate, I think, alluded to, which is, or maybe I don't want to presume what you were alluding to, but like all the sort of stuff that's within many more people's reach to do that isn't necessarily just paying people more. It's the giving staff their hours, their schedules 2 weeks in advance. It's a redistribution of tips from the old sort of 5% for the back of house to, places that I know of that are doing a much more equitable split, partly to hold on to people. It's putting in actual proper HR rules or codes of conduct with accountability that are designed to, consider the mental health and safety of workers, things that aren't necessarily going to radically change your business and cause you to have to not make a profit, but things that people have been asking for that are more of a social change, changing the old fear-based management system. So I see a lot of that stuff happening from the people. I mean, Kate is someone I've reached out to when I was planning on coming to Toronto and my trip was cut short by Omicron. And Kate was actually someone I reached out to say, hey, I wanted to come by with a friend for lunch. And I have to practice what I preach. So can I ask you, is it untoward for me to ask you, how do you pay your people? How do you split tips? And she was very forthcoming. And I was delighted to hear what she had to say. I'm not going to share her numbers because that was a private conversation, but we can be having those conversations. And the good news is I had a conversation with someone in Winnipeg about that, and she said, I've had customers start to ask me about that. And she said, people will ask me about that once a shift or once a week. Regularly, people, they see that I'm the owner, I have owner energy. They come up to me, not my employees, and they ask me about it. And I asked how often pre-pandemic that happened. And she said, not once. No one ever pre-pandemic asked me about that stuff. So I think there's a real possibility for sort of bridging that gap between the sort of rising consumer awareness, the rising worker awareness of their rights, and the rising willingness of people wanting to change some of the old paradigms. And part of that happens by, I think, entreating diners to say, it's not taboo to talk about these things, even though we as Canadians were probably told explicitly that it is rude to ask people about money.
Yeah, for sure. Corey, you kind of described some of these restaurants that are able to, retain staff as kind of outliers, and as food reporters, like we hear news of the occasional restaurant doing away with tipping, and maybe, and Hemant, I think you tried that as well before with one of your restaurants, and sometimes it works, but I think a lot of times
It was good.
right?
It was there for 2 years. It worked for 2 years until I got nailed by the CRA really big time. So yeah, it worked for 2 years really well.
Nailed by the CRA.
Can you tell us that story?
Yeah, I mean, look, the way the CRA works is that it needs to be like a proper salary, but it has to be properly taxed and everything. That's what we were doing. But then it became so big, what we were taking as an office admin at 10%, that's where they nailed us for. The CRA nailed us for the 10% there, that we cannot charge, like service charge is okay, but as an office, or something like that, I don't remember how I put it, maybe admin or something, which was going to the staff, all of it there. So that's where they nailed us. They taxed us because they said that's a revenue there. It's not for the tips. Even though it was paid, all of it as the tips, and we got nailed as a revenue. Service charge can be revenue for the restaurant. That's what they came back as.
Okay. So I mean, I think back to my original question. It seems like the restaurant industry is like such a wild west. Like tipping is doesn't seem to be unregulated. There's so many, and there's sick days, and so many stuff is out there. And if one restaurant does it, I feel like you kind of need strength in numbers to do it. And I feel like the only way to make it kind of permanent and stick is to introduce some sort of legislation across the board from the province. I mean, is there anything that could be done by the Ontario government and the Labor Ministry that would be able to make the restaurant industry more sustainable and hospitable for the people who work there?
I mean, I think they recently took the first step by abolishing the tipping, like a tipped worker wage, which is nice. But I do think that, I've had friends that have tried to do this, and you just can't retain quality front of house staff if they can go next door and make triple the money. So I really do think it's something that needs to come from the top. It needs to be across the board for everyone, and we can team up and try and do it or whatever, but I think that it really needs to be legislation. I don't think that it's Corey detailed very well in his book the many problems with tipping, and I think this has always been a bone of contention for me because I've worked back of house my entire life, and people, my coworkers in the front have always made double or more of what I've been paid. And that's not even, it's also for them. It's for their security, for their, in this whole situation, I thought it would help turn some front of house people's opinions, because, when they went on to EI, they realized how little, they're supported, because, their $12 an hour certainly does not support you when you're getting 70% of that on EI or whatever.
And because, for the audience that may not be aware, tipped earners who traditionally make the bulk of their income in tips frequently don't actually declare that when they pay their taxes. So,
but even if you do declare it, it does not go towards your EI premium.
oh, right.
So they literally have no motivation to declare it. And yeah, it's a flawed system from so many angles. It creates the majority of the abuse in our industry, I think, stems from that mysterious cash flow. And I do, I know my service staff are going to hate me for saying this, but I do think it's something that needs to go away so that everyone can be paid fairly and equitably, and so that we can be taken seriously as an industry. 18% of our revenue is undeclared in our industry. That's crazy.
Yeah. I remember a restaurant owner who owns a place on Roncesvalles. He was telling me that, we're all professionals. Like, you don't tip your dentist. Why are you tipping? Exactly. Why do you have to tip your server or the person who made your food?
That's my line. He stole my line.
Oh, okay.
I use that whenever I do.
Know who you're talking about. Okay.
Whenever I do a local radio interview, I always use the dentist or the electrician are my example. But yeah, why not treat people like professionals? Full disclosure, I'm working with a restaurateur right now who's looking to eliminate tipping and trying to help them navigate how to do that. I interviewed Michael Lynn, the academic at Cornell, the professor who's sort of the godfather of tipping research. And he's kind of been looking at this for decades. So he'll tell you, going back to the 70s, it's a cyclical conversation. We keep getting in about tipping, and there's always a handful of people willing to try it, and whether they stick with it or they don't, there's never really a pickup by the industry, even though there's always media attention. But in Toronto alone, I've seen Richmond Station, 20 Victoria, and Marvin have all eliminated tipping in the last couple of years. I know, at least speaking with people at Marvin and Richmond Station, that they're very happy with it. But it's a battle. You've really got to sort of, in addition to changing the system, you've also got to sort of fight this PR battle from a dining public who have been raised with this sort of original sin of the industry that is hard to sort of reprogram people from. And as Kate says, it's really difficult to do it if everyone's not doing it. But right now, can your best servers go across the street? Like, they can't. Everyone is either closed right now, or they're expecting, well, if I go across the street to whatever the hot restaurant is, how do I know that they won't be closed for dine-in service in 3 months? Like, isn't now the time to sort of say, perhaps some stability in equalizing these, and like actually just getting a wage, never mind all the other problems with it?
I certainly feel that way, but things go back to normal for a minute, and it's hard you've been broke for 2 years, and it's hard to say no to making $300 in a night or whatever. So
yeah,
I'd like to.
Yeah, I would also like to.
Yeah.
Not that I'd like to serve, because it's a hard job, and I did it once very briefly, and I was terrible at it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. People, like, when I say these things, the offense is always like, oh, but I work so hard for my money. And it's like, yeah, I'm not saying that you don't, or that you don't deserve it, but we're all a team here, and do you deserve triple what the guy making the stuff that you're serving does?
Yeah. Well, I think the great thing about Corey's book is that it's not a very insidery look at the restaurant industry. I think if anyone who's been to a restaurant or ordered takeout should really pick it up and just educate themselves as a diner. And Corey has a whole section on the tipping and why it doesn't necessarily work for the people receiving them. And there's a whole chapter on delivery, which I think we kind of have to bring up, because during the last 2 years, I think a lot of people have been ordering delivery from their phone apps. So I'll just leave it as an open-ended question for the three of our speakers here. Delivery, it seems that yay or nay, is it supporting a restaurant if I order takeout through delivery?
No, it's not. I mean, if third parties are there, I don't think so. It's supporting it. Till the time it was an additional business where the dine-in or our regular takeout was on, it was fine because we had some time to do it. But now that it's our core business, we don't make money. I think we're just making these third parties richer and we're getting poorer. That's what it is. Right, Kate? Do you agree?
I would agree 100% with you. 100%.
Right.
If you really want to support the restaurant, just, order and go pick it
Correctly.
up. That is the real way to do it.
Yeah.
And you'll save money also. It's like it benefits everyone. The apps benefit no one. The drivers are miserable. It arrives in poor quality. You're paying more, and then they gouge us for more than literally 5 times the average profit margins of restaurants in Canada. Literally.
I have a quick story about a driver. He was made to wait 5 minutes to pick up his food. He picked up the food, went into his car, called his friends. In 5 minutes, we had 10 negative reviews, 1 star on our Google and TripAdvisor and everywhere. In 5 minutes. And it's crazy.
Hemant, it sounds like you hate free speech.
Yeah.
The other day, I was watching one stuff bags into his container, and he was just looking up at my front of house worker to see if they were watching as he literally stuffed things. I was like, I'm watching you. I can see you.
So my follow-up question is, what can the general public, the regular diner, do to support the restaurants and people who work there?
Call us and place an order. Come pick it up. We like to see your face too. It's always nice. It'll be fresher.
We're bored. We have no romance with anyone now. We're just with the takeout boxes out there. So come in and we'll be there for you guys. That's what it is.
It's true. We'll be so nice.
Yeah, I think there should be also an understanding, as Corey had said earlier, not just 4 to 6% where the price, the cost has gone up or the prices have gone up on the menu. I think it is going up more, and the customers need to know this, that, it's going more now. With all these third parties, going back to them also, is that because they have a war between them, like Uber or Skip, they give buy one, get one free, and the restaurants are jumping on it to get more sales because no one is making money. The only companies which are making money are Ubers and stuff. We're not making any money. But by just doing buy one, get one free, I think it's become huge right now on Ubers and stuff. People actually go in to look for those deals. Please don't do it. Come directly. We're there. We'll give you a better pricing directly through a restaurant.
And then, Corey?
I really briefly, third-party delivery is a scam. It's a scam to the diner. It's a scam to the restaurant, and it's a scam to the investors who continue to pump hundreds of $1 million into these unprofitable companies, each of which simply hopes that they will be the last 1 or 2 standing of a monopoly or a duopoly that can then either jack up the price or find some other way to become profitable, because they still aren't yet. I've been singing this song for several years now. You couldn't hear it any better than from 2 restaurateurs just saying, just come in, place your order, come in. I think that's reasonable if you actually love restaurants. I don't have any more to add than that.
Yeah. Now, I've been getting a lot of takeout. Before the chat started, I was telling Corey, Hemant, and Kate that I actually go out. I set out in minus 20 degree weather and order it in person and eat it at the nearby park. Even during Monday's snowstorm, I was like, I want to go get a slushie. So I climbed over a lot of mountains of snow just to get a slushie and thank the Circle K clerk profusely for staying open that day. But that being said, I think the average diner, we only have so much in our wallets. I think everyone's watching their budgets during the pandemic, and we all can't afford to get takeout all the time and leave a 25% tip. For people who can't afford takeout all the time, is there anything else they can do to support the restaurant industry and its people? I
mean, look at who you're voting in and who is going to what government is going to support us best, I guess, when it comes the time, or I really, short of supporting us financially, that's.
I'm going to tag this. It's not just look at who you vote in, but because, when you think about ultimately where I ended up, the sort of ditch that I drove myself into in writing the book was thinking about the difference between what effect we can change on an individual basis, through our consumer choice versus at a certain point, you need governments, you need policy to change things, whether it's the sub-minimum wage or putting commission caps on the 3PD companies, or investigating, having surprise labor investigations, or instead of having a complaint-based system. But in the terms of like the third-party delivery companies, they've made it clear what their long-term strategy is, and that's going to be to rewrite labor laws and to fight any controls we seek to put on them. So we saw this in California with Prop 22. California made a law that said gig workers have to be treated like employees, and these companies pooled together $200 million and won a ballot initiative. They convinced the public to vote to reverse that law, and afterwards they said, we're going to take this everywhere, and they have been. And meanwhile, in New York, like many other cities, Toronto was very late to it, put commission caps, temporary caps on these companies. New York, at a certain point, said, we're going to move to make these caps permanent, whereupon these companies sued the city of New York. So they're going to take these legal battles everywhere, and it becomes not just a matter of who we vote in, although that's absolutely important. We need to have legislators who are not so out of touch that they can be bamboozled by the tech industry's pitch that, labor laws were written 100 years ago before we had computers, so they don't matter anymore. They're not relevant in today's marketplace. But occasionally, these companies will actually take the fight to us as voters. I mean, they made it a referendum issue in California, and they won because they hustled the public, because they have the public literally in their pocket. They can market to voters in their phone. So it matters that we become aware of these things. Yes, that we make that choice to ditch these apps and support restaurants individually, but occasionally this actually becomes a voting issue where someone asks for our opinion. And at that point, it matters that the public is aware of what these businesses, what these tech industries mean to the restaurants that we love and we want to preserve in our communities.
Okay. Hemant, anything to add?
No, I'm good. Yeah.
Okay. And to kind of bring it down to a smaller micro level, I've been asked many times from diners, how do I know that the restaurant that I'm eating at or patronizing, that the staff is being treated well? I mean, we have the dine safe, the health inspections to make sure that the kitchen is clean, but from a labor side, it's harder to tell if the people are being treated well, or if they're being paid well, or if the management aren't douchebags.
Well, I think it comes out. It comes out naturally out there, right? Very organically. When you go to a restaurant, you see how the staff, how they are behaving, are they happy or not, or how they are talking to everyone. I think that speaks quite a bit for a restaurant. I think
I disagree.
No,
I think that the tradition in restaurants is to put on a face for everyone.
Okay.
A kabuki for the public, which generally does convince most people, oh, what a pleasant place. Everyone's happy and smiling. But they're smiling because it's their job to smile. And I find anytime I see an article about, it turns out this place was a nightmare behind the scenes, whether it's like Buka or Mission Chinese in New York, the general reaction was like, I had no idea. Everybody seemed like, the kitchen seemed like they were having a good time. I think it's only when those exposés happen that it becomes a matter of something the public can touch and feel.
Those are one of those crazy places, right? I think normally I would think that they're happy. They don't have to put up anything out there. So I would think like that. I don't know. Kate can add something more than which I don't know probably.
I guess you could look at staff turnover, but unless you're a regular, how do you really know that? I do think it's a hard thing to tell if you're not someone that's like, someone can be putting on a happy face, but if you're sensitive to some like how someone's feeling, you'll know that it's fake. But I don't know that most people going out, like, people want that facade and they want to feel happy and they want it to be good, right? They're there to have a good time. So yeah, I think it's really hard to tell. It is really hard to tell. I mean, the best way would be to ask your staff, like, hey, how long have you worked here? You like it? Are you happy? I think like people are scared to like cross those lines maybe with service staff, but I think most of my staff would be very happy to talk to you about those things,
I'll make a suggestion, and it's not something that any of us have the power to do, but the public health, their procedure with restaurant is they show up unannounced. I believe it's 3 or 4 times a year, and they have a set list of things. They inspect you to make sure that everything is hygienic up to their code. And as of sometime in the early 2000s, those became public, right? They had to post those online, so the public can go and see how you were scored. For labor, nobody ever shows up unless a complaint is filed. It's the same as restaurants, and it's the same in the agriculture industry, where it's an even huger problem, where workers are, they're remote, they're outside the city, they live on the farm. The only thing that would change that, the enforcement, would be to like radically overhaul the system. And I don't see why, other than obviously the financial cost of making the Ministry of Labor in Ontario a more robust, sort of aggressive rather than defensive organization, saying, no, they should show up 3 times a year to look at time cards, to interview people, to take some kind of stock of whether or not workplace infraction, like the kind of stuff you can't just wait. In my experience, people only file complaints with the Ministry of Labor as an absolute last resort. Whereas I think a lot of things would get corrected, or maybe people would put on a better show for the inspector if they actually had to comply with standards because someone showed up periodically and as a surprise to take a look at conditions.
Yeah. So, I mean, Corey, how do you vet restaurants yourself? How do you know that the restaurant that you're going to is a place that kind of matches with your ethos?
I do 2 things. One, like Kate said, I ask, and I've had to sort of break down the sort of cultural obstruction from thinking that's such a terrible thing to ask. And the reality, of course, is that, even before the pandemic, just before I started working on this book, we had a baby, we moved to Winnipeg. I'm not doing a lot of dining out these days. I'm not hitting the town, but I still have been faced with both in my new home, finding not places to eat because we're not eating out right now, but places that I want to support. And also when I was briefly surprised by my wife and who planned a trip back to Toronto for me, and I did want to check out some restaurants, any place that was new to me, I asked the owner. And some places are selected based on me asking someone what do people pay? Who's an ethical employer? I mean, the one thing I'm advising people to do, if you want to do something, it's not going to cost you anything. You want to support more ethical actors in the restaurant sphere. If you're a person who loves restaurant, you already have a list of restaurants that you're planning to go to, right? It's in your phone, it's in your note app or whatever you use, and it's probably called from places that have been recommended by people like you or other publications or social media. And the next time you hear about some place that is doing something, either because you were just watching Now and you said, oh, I think these people seem like nice people, or you read an article about how some restaurant eliminated tips, or they're paying for dental benefits, or they just hosted one of the not 9 to 5 seminars on mental health and addiction in the workplace. You say, that sounds like a good place. Maybe put that restaurant at the top of your list, make that the next place to go because you heard that they treat people well and hopefully they make good food too. They probably do. And just bump that ahead of the place that was listed because it has this well-known chef. Because, by the way, the reason that not all chefs, hashtag not all chefs, but the reason the chef is so well-known because they worked at all these great places is because they worked at a bunch of places that use the same type of institutionalized, fear-based management where they scream at everybody, pay them less than minimum wage because they all want to work at the chef under the feet of the master. The last thing we need to do is the next time we go out, go up to one of those top 10 places that really are only able to achieve and serve the kind of luxury that we've all become accustomed to expect, is because they treat people like trash.
Right, right. And then I'm going to wrap things up, and then we're going to take some questions from the people who have tuned in. So all that's said and done in the past hour, what is one thing that each of you hope that people who, come away from this discussion or pick up Corey's book, preferably both, take away from all of this? What's one thing that you hope that readers, diners know about the restaurant industry?
I think that the labor thing is a big one, obviously. I hope that people understand more that, when you're going out and 6 people are preparing you dinner, that comes at a price, that those prices are going up, and that complaining about those prices in a pandemic when most of us are very close to shutting our doors is not, if you don't afford it, don't go out. It is what it is. I'm sorry, but if you're getting an inexpensive meal from anywhere, someone along the lines is being exploited, whether it's from the farmer or from, there's, if something's cheap, there's someone in the chain of this that is not being treated properly. So,
okay.
Unfortunately.
I think we need, as restaurateurs or restaurants, we need support now. I think that's the most important thing right now. Once we're coming back, we're opening soon. That's one thing we really, really need. A lot of people coming out, knowing that the prices will be different. I mean, groceries have gone up, so obviously, the prices for the restaurants will be high. And also, I think customers need to be more patient now with us, with the restaurants opening up. And that's about it. Yeah.
And Corey, I mean, the entire book is trying to educate diners in being more ethical and more responsible and smarter with their dining choices. But is there any point that really stands out from everything that you've written in your book?
I'll go back to the first rule, the golden rule. There's one rule, it's the golden rule, and the rest is conversation. Have compassion for other people. But at a certain point, compassion is an emotional thing. And what we need to do is a bit of the other side of our brain. And it's hard to be compassionate if you don't actually know what people are going through. So make some effort. If you love restaurants, try to understand. And you can do that by asking questions. For example, just to tag on to the points that Kate and Hemant just made. Yes, the price of the brick is going up. Many people see prices in the grocery store going up, but consider if you see the price of whatever it is that you buy in the grocery store going up by 5%, consider that restaurateurs, when you see something going up a lot at the grocery store, you then hesitate and go, well, maybe I'll get this one instead. When you're committed to, we only use this kind of flour from Italy, or we have to get this spice, which comes from this importer through Vietnam, you have to get that thing. And when you can't get that thing, or when your price jumps, it's actually, restaurateurs keep telling me it's quadrupling, right? It's going up tenfold. So don't presume that the prices you see in the grocery store or the rises in those prices are commensurate with the increase in prices in restaurants. It's usually much more. So that's a good starting point for just trying to sort of say, let me not presume what someone else is going through, and maybe let me start by asking.
Okay, and now let's take some viewer questions. I think the first one, all three of you have kind of touched on throughout the last hour, and it's I'll just read it directly what they wrote. Given increased food costs, rate of inflation, combined with huge losses over the past 2 years and staffing shortages, what are your opinions on how you will deal with menu costs in the next year?
I mean, already going into our like we just reopened for takeout, we've put up prices like 10% on average across the board, just out of necessity. For like a small example, when we opened Birria in, I believe April, our tomatillos were $43 a case. Over Christmas, they were $77 a case. So like, those and that's just for a salsa. It's just like one base ingredient for anything, and everything across the board is like that. This week, my meat supplier told me, well, Arby's has bought all the brisket in North America, so get ready for brisket prices to like quadruple. You guys know Arby's makes their roast beef with brisket.
Well, we've been our market is very, very sensitive in the food courts also. So it's very tough. Suddenly you're having a lunch in food court, which was about $14, $15. Now you're paying $21, $22. So people are walking away. And that's where the problem is. I mean, we've been trying to keep it at par, but it's getting very difficult. So it keeps going up. Look, everybody is, for example, every restaurant is doing a takeout delivery. So the packaging is not even available. A lot of packaging is not available. And what was available, as Kate said, for something for $50 is now $150 in packaging. So things are going up, and I think people have to really understand this part.
That's one thing that I find very strange too. Actually, touching on the packaging thing, is that we never had a single complaint about our pricing for dine-in. As soon as we went takeout, even with the same prices, when they come pick it up, it was like, wow, this is so expensive. Because all of a sudden the I guess expectation, or I guess people are willing to pay more for service, which is great, but you're tipping for that service. When I'm taking this exact same dish and putting it in takeout, I'm paying more. But it takes the same amount of work to prepare it, but all of a sudden I'm paying $2 total for the packaging for it, because like Hemant said, you can't even get it, and what was once $43 is upwards of $100. It's crazy.
The other problem is that every restaurant has started to do a virtual restaurant. So one restaurant now has 4 or 5 restaurants inside, right, with Uber and other third parties. So a lot of packaging, a lot of stuff has gone in. I think I've realized where 5 or 6 restaurants are in one, the quality is suffering. I think that's what I've realized too, big time. And people who are just doing one restaurant, simply running a restaurant and trying to do a good job with it, they're facing more issues than somebody who's doing 5 restaurants, thinking, oh, they're going to make 500 from one restaurant and 500 from the other one, but it's not working like that.
Yeah, the packaging issue, like I get takeout a lot, and often, so often I'm always like, oh, can I just bring my own container or Tupperware? And then the restaurant owner will be like, nope, that is a liability. It's a contamination issue. Like, even though I know you, I cannot take your container into the kitchen, but where food for other people are being prepared. So the one thing I can do is that I never ask for cutlery. I bring my own bag. Like, I just try to minimize as much packaging as possible, because 1, waste, and 2, I know that adds up. Like ketchup packets of salt, plastic knives and forks, like that all costs money.
Right.
So I stopped asking for that.
Well, other than packaging, what is the biggest surprise for me has been the real estate, that it's the rentals are going up. They're not actually coming down. And that's what is the biggest surprise for me in the COVID.
Yeah.
You would think, oh, I'm going to get a restaurant for a lower rent now, but it's not the case.
Yeah. And then our next question is from a viewer who is interested in whether you would want to maintain the need for proof of vaccine to dine indoors for at least another few months. But I feel like you have to. It's just the law, right?
Yeah, we don't have much choice.
I don't think they kind of have to. They're just following the rules, or else.
Well, they can walk into a grocery store and not. There is no proof given, but we have to do it in the restaurants. Yeah, we have to.
Yeah, you just got to follow the law, or else you'll get shut down by the government. The next one is, I'm curious if there are useful or positive learnings or specific innovations that come out of this for restaurant operations to be used post-COVID. Is there anything that kind of came out of COVID, whether it's the way that you run the business or technologies, where you're like, okay, even after the pandemic, I'm going to be keeping this?
I mean, for me, it's the bottle shop aspect that's come out in Ontario has been really great. I think that's something that we'll always keep going. And I think it's, I know the LCBO supports, the money you pay into the LCBO goes into the country or into the province, which is great, but they certainly gouge us and don't support the right producers or people. So I think it's nice to be able to support smaller wine producers, for example, or, we sell some bottles of mezcal at our place, and it's nice to be able to have those items available to the general public. I think a lot of the private imports that you weren't able to access before.
Yeah. The cocktails to go have been great.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. I mean, it's great, and I don't drink a lot, but like for a lot of these cocktails, like I'm never going to make this stuff at home, so it's better to just buy a bottle rather than be spending 5 times as much for the individual ingredients.
Yeah,
for
100%.
something that will probably taste terrible if I make it.
And I would like to keep all the patios in the parking lots.
I agree.
I love it. I
love
just
it.
love the energy in the city. I love that we can serve people outside. I think it's amazing.
Agreed.
Yeah. And Corey, in your research and talking to all these restaurant people, is there anything that came out of the pandemic that will kind of stay afterwards, whenever this afterwards is?
Well, when I talk to people about the sort of the variety of different revenue streams that they introduced out of necessity, it seems like an even split between the people who will say, as soon as I can serve people in my dining room again, I'm ditching all this stuff. I didn't get into business to do that. And other people who say, no, I love it. Like we put aside a little bit of the space in the dining room. There's now a fridge or a freezer there. I've got frozen pizzas. I've got prepared whatever. And it's dependable income, and also people who say it makes them more part of the community, like particularly the people who are selling more. Some people I spoke with who are doing like a farmer's market or doing fresh bread, real stuff that people come in daily for, and it becomes more of an actual meeting your neighbors. I'm curious from the two of you. I know it's easy for me as someone who doesn't run a restaurant to say something's 10% is better than nothing, but Ontario famously did not have any wholesale pricing for alcohol for restaurateurs, and then recently introduced it. It's only 10% of a discount, but still, is that meaningful to you? Has that been for you? I know your businesses are very distinct, but has it been?
Just to give some context to the people tuning in, the amount that us regular people pay at the LCBO is the same as what a restaurant pays in order to sell it. So, if I pay $20 for a bottle of wine, if Kate or Hemant wants to sell that bottle of wine or serve that bottle of wine at their restaurant, they also have to pay $20.
I don't think so. It's enough in our sit-down restaurants.
I agree.
Right? Yeah.
But also, I'll take it. Like, thank you. I worked for 12 years in Quebec, and I don't see the SAQ extending that same discount anytime soon. So, I mean, it's appreciated, but yeah, 10% is 10%, but
yeah,
can't shake a fist at it. But.
Okay, so we got 2 minutes left. Enough time for our last question. Very open-ended. Let's gaze into a crystal ball. How will restaurants be different in 2023? I mean, very optimistic that we'll all still be here in 2020, 2030. Not 2023, but 10 years from now. What do the three of you think the restaurant scene will look like? I feel like you're all just trying to get through the week at this point, let alone what the next decade will look like. But
I'll jump in there and give these two time to think, and then they can be the closers. I mean, if you talk to these sort of this analyst firm or this research firm, they'll tell you consumers want more convenience and better prices, and and they want drive-through everything, and they want more safety precautions. Ultimately, I think the trend we're seeing is you're going to see continual closure of small independent places that don't have the capital to maintain solvency through all these closures, or who have simply grown exhausted. And you'll see more of the big corporate and franchised chains that have, access to more investor capital, or just maybe more, resilience in terms of business planning. And you'll see more of our restaurants look like that. And the only real stopgap against that is us as diners supporting the kind of restaurants we want to be in our neighborhoods. The government, I think, deserves some credit. It has done a lot. It saved a lot of restaurants that would have obviously gone under, or I guess 100% of restaurants would have gone under at a certain point, or nearly 100%. So, Canada, federal government of Canada deserves some credit, but it's been insufficient. And certainly at this stage, with all these supports tapered off, with workers being unable to stay at home safely without going broke and being unable to pay their rent, we're just going to see more of those kind of restaurants drop off. And the only antidote to that, because I don't see the federal government coming in as a cavalry, is us just sort of being understanding, figuring out, here are the 3 restaurants in my neighborhood that I really want to see around by this summer when patio season comes around. So if I have X number of dining dollars, this is where I'm going to spend them.
Mm-hmm. Kate and Hemant, final words?
I think a little differently there, but I think running a restaurant has always been an art, a passion, right? I think after a year or so, once this gets over, Kate and I, we all will be back solid, making relationships with our customers, our staff. It'll be back to normal, and we'll start making money again. I think in 2030, we'll be exactly the same, more passionate and out there hugging and kissing everyone in the restaurant. That's what's going to happen.
Okay.
That was very nice. That's very nice. I think we'll see more in the small. I hope that we don't see the death of independence and that chains take over. That's a horrible thought. I think that maybe in the independent side of things, we'll see more of this hybrid style of restaurant where you have the shop and the the takeout and the sit down, in order to be able to be flexible in all these times.
Okay. Great. A little bit of optimism after Corey just brought us all way down.
That's my talent.
Yeah. But I'd like to thank all 3 of you, Corey, Kate, and Hemant. The next supper, the end of, trying to remember if I was trying to move away so I can grab your book from my.
It's called Harry Potter and the Deathly something.
Okay, look at Kate. I'll prepare.
The next supper, the end of restaurants as we knew them, comma, and what comes after.
Yes. Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you to you both. You guys have been amazing, and good seeing you, Kate.
As well. Very nice to meet you.
This was fun. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
And thank you so much, Karon, as well, for being such a fantastic moderator and asking all those questions. This conversation was fascinating and totally essential. And I'm just my stomach is growling because I'm imagining the tiramisu pancakes we're getting at our local, because we got a gift card for Christmas. And
yeah,
yeah,
my friend.
You know exactly what I'm talking about.
I do. I made those pancakes when I first moved to Toronto.
Oh my god. We need to talk after. I love you. Thank you all so much for this fascinating conversation on the future of restaurants. Hopefully it will be there, especially the wonderful independent restaurants that make up our neighborhoods and our communities. The next supper, The End of Restaurants as We Knew Them, comma, and What Comes After by Corey Mintz is available now. You can find a copy at Another Story Bookshop, also on Roncesvalles. There's a link in the in the comments section. And we'd also like to thank everyone who's tuning in from home. We'll be back in February with a very special heart-eyed edition of The City Imagines, featuring Jenny Yuen, Natalie Zena Walshotz, S. Bear Bergman, and Kai Cheng Tom, who will discuss the wonderful possibilities of ethical non-monogamy and other alternatives to traditional relationship structures for those looking for love. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a great evening.